I built a small handheld game called Space Drop. At first glance, it looks simple, because it is. Objects fall from space, you shoot them, if any hit the ground, game's over. Then you try to beat your high score. That's the whole game. Space Drop is my attempt at making the most addictive soldering kit. I don't necessarily mean addicted to soldering, but I mean addicted to playing it when you're done. Somewhat challenging, but not too challenging, and very gratifying. First thing I always do is I throw the basic parts together on a breadboard to build a prototype. In my attempt to make it simple, I first chose a rotary encoder with a push button built in. This would allow me to have just one component for moving and firing. But I quickly realized that it's not a good experience. Try to twist and push the button, it just didn't work. So I switched to a potentiometer, and it was clearly the right way to go. It felt so much better. And for such a cheap part and simple code, the fluid movement coupled with that satisfying click from a tactile button was so addictive. So I locked it in and I started working on the PCB. I typically like to make all of my projects on a 55 by 55 millimeter footprint. It just turns out to be the most universally good size for almost all of my projects. But here, it was just too cramped, so I increased the length by about 50%. Even with the extra length, it still felt a little bit cramped, but instead of making it bigger, I thought maybe I would just try to do something with the potentiometer hanging off the edge. This gave me a good, comfortable spacing between controls. For the display, I chose the trusty 128 by 64 I2C OLED. It's a very common, easy to find display with plenty of library support. The problem is, the screen's the same size, but the board that the screen's mounted on comes in various sizes, and it's always in a slightly different position. But worse yet, the VCC and ground are swapped depending on the version that you get. So we need to make sure we accommodate for that. For the fire button, I use the common 12 millimeter tactile button. It's a good size, and it's super plentiful and easy to find. For the movement control, I decided to go with the classic style potentiometer so it could be mounted right at the bottom edge of the PCB. One of the simplest but most important parts was the control knob. I bought a bunch and tried a lot of different things, but ultimately I just ended up 3D printing one that felt just right. For sound, I'm using a simple little passive buzzer. And for power, I chose 3 AAA batteries with a 3D printed holder that doubles as a support for the potentiometer. I chose alkaline over LiPo because they have a much better shelf life. The full game only pulls about 13 milliamps, so these batteries can last for about 60 hours of continuous gameplay. And for both convenience and battery longevity, I designed a simple little auto-off circuit that has 0 current leak when it's off. This handful of components allows you to turn the game on by pressing the fire button, and the code does the work of turning it off after about 30 seconds of inactivity by switching the control pin low. And finally, the brain. 2 of my favorite development boards are the Nano V3 and the D1 Mini. I chose the D1 Mini simply because it's smaller and it's so darn cheap. I tried to make the PCB as self-explanatory as possible. I kept all of the resistors the same value, so you don't have to worry about soldering the wrong value in the wrong place. Everything else is pretty clearly marked and mostly obvious. An important thing to be aware of is to solder the battery holder and the display last. This is because a few of the components are positioned underneath, and if you block those holes, you won't be able to solder them. Oh, remember how the different versions of the display have the ground and VCC reversed? I added little jumper pads so it can accommodate whatever version you have. Now we need an enclosure. My first attempt was pretty much an ugly box. So then I decided to have a little more fun with it, and I created a more open design so it lets some of the character of the PCB come through. Instead of having to put screws in, I made the board just click into position. The other thing I wanted to address is the display size and position. It's not always the same depending on the version you get, so I need to make the opening ambiguous enough so you don't really notice. There we go, Space Drop. Now let's see, did we hit the 3 goals? Will it last forever? Well, time will tell. This one here I've had for more than a year. It's one of the first ones that I built, and it still works, and I play it all the time. Here's the cool part. These are the same batteries. Is it a satisfying experience? It absolutely is. I very rarely ever play it just once. It's multiple times. And if I hand it to somebody, it's hard to get it back. So I think that kind of hits our last point of being genuinely addictive. I'm going to have a step-by-step guide on the website, so I'll go through every step, and you can build this on your own, or you can buy a kit, but you can even build this on the breadboard if you want. I used common parts. The code's free. You can 3D print the enclosure. If you want the PCB, you have to buy it from me, but hey, I got to make money somehow. If you want your own space drop solder project, I'll have a limited supply on the store. So thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll see you next time.